Hello guys, welcome back to the complete crash course of BB in aviation management. This will be a really long playlist. I said it before, right? And I said it before, like in my first and my second unit as well. I'm telling it once again. Okay. The chapters taught in this playlist will be live and on-spot doubts will be clarified. Uh, as we have finished 2 units of the semester, I hope you're getting what I'm trying to tell you all, like what I'm teaching you and all the stuff. Okay, it's just a crash course. Okay, now we have 6 semesters, out of which uh, this is the first semester third unit, where we shall be studying about the organizational structure of airline industry. So guys, brace yourselves cause the captain has put the seatbelt signs on. Buckle up and prepare for takeoff.
Yeah.
Let's quickly look into the contents of this unit. So you will be studying about the first thing what you're going to study about is development of commercial airlines. Then you're going to study about deregulations of airline industry. Then you have something called as impact of deregulated airline industry. Then you have organizational structure. Then you have types of airline personnel. Then you have something called as flight crew and cabin crew. Okay, here we shall be talking only about the differences. Then you're going to study about the training. Okay, and lastly you're going to study about the organizational culture of the airline industry. Before I start, let me tell you that the information given in these presentations is not complete. You have to read the information given on the screens as well as listen to what I explain, and if you wish you can make your own notes as well. That's it from my end, and so let's begin with the first unit, sorry, with the first uh, subtopic. Okay, development of commercial airlines. Here we look into how and when commercial airlines started in India. Okay, our entire syllabus focuses on India, so we concentrate only on India. Okay, we talk about Indian aviation industry, and we don't talk anything else over here. Then yes, guys, I will be talking about lot many things over here. So I'm going to take you guys uh, to the beginning of Indian aviation industry. Okay, this thing has numbers. Okay, the information in this topic, this topic that is development of commercial airlines, has lot many numbers and lot many things you have to remember. Okay, so let me start right now. Aviation, Indian aviation kicked off in 1932 with the introduction of the first airline, that is Tata Air Services. The airline, founded by J.R.D. Tata, started as an air mail carrier within India after winning a contract with Imperial Airways. Guys, let me tell you that Imperial Airways was the early British commercial long range airline which operated from 1924 to 1939. She couldn't survive, okay? The airline couldn't survive for a long time. If you want to know more about Imperial, then comment down below, okay? I will make a video according to the votes what I get. Back to the course. The airline flew its inaugural flight in October 1932. Okay, I'm talking about Tata Air Services. Okay, yep. It flew from Karachi to Mumbai. All right. The airline progressed from a small freight airline to a commercial passenger airline. By 1938, the airline, that was Tata Air Services, was renamed to Tata Airlines, and it was flying domestic flights to a good number of destinations. JRD Tata was himself heavily involved in the airline. He flew the airline's inaugural flight in 1932 and was India's first licensed pilot. Tata Airways also played a major role in the Second World War. How? By carrying troops and supplies for Britain during the war. Alright? In 1947, following Indian independence, Tata Airways was renamed to Air India and the government took a 49% stake in the airline. Yes, guys, the airline began flying its first international flights in the next year in 1948, flying from Mumbai to London on a Lockheed Constellation, the vintage, beautiful looking metal bird. By the 1950s, India was home to a number of smaller airlines operating in the different parts of the country. Some notable airlines were Deccan Airways, which was based in Hyderabad, and Kalinga Airlines, which was based in Kolkata. Luckily, Air India remained the national carrier, flying multiple domestic and international routes. Then, in 1953, the Indian government nationalized the aviation industry, taking control of all major airlines. This resulted in the eight major airlines being merged into two airlines run by the government. These two airlines were Air India and Indian Airlines. The two government airlines were simplified for efficiency. All right. Indian Airlines operated only domestic flights within India, and Air India focused on international routes. This led to a significant streamlining of operations, allowing the government to manage these airlines. Later, Air India International, the new airline, was India's flag carrier, and then it quickly became a major international carrier. Air India was started known for its superior service and profitable business model, which was led by J.R.D. Tata, who stayed on as chairman of the airline post privatization. The airline also became one of the first few to purchase the 747s. We call that as the queens of the skies, right? Hoping to keep its status as a premium airline. However, if you know and studied this in the history, that during the 1970s it was full of war and domestic disputes, right? Which led Air India and Indian Airlines to struggle a lot. Indian Airlines was struggled in particular since it operated a number of unprofitable routes and they were forced to manage its aging fleet. In the 1990s, the peak of India's financial crisis, India reversed its stance on regulation and allowed private airlines once again. And by 1994, India repealed all the laws regulating the formation of airlines and allowed the introduction of scheduled private airlines. This deregulation allowed for the formation of new airlines such as Jet Airways and Modi left. Now, why did even I tell Modi left? Did this airline ever existed or it was just in the sheet of papers? This Modi left managed to survive only for 3 years. When it first commenced its operation, its primary hub was in Delhi, connecting cities like Jammu, Leh, Srinagar, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. Modi left flew 727s and 737s of Lufthansa Airlines. Okay, that is why if you see the livery of Modi left, then they are very much similar to Lufthansa. Now, this led the groundwork for the current Indian aviation industry. Following the 1994 reforms, India saw a number of airlines crop up. Air India and Indian Airlines continued to operate as government run airlines. However, carriers such as Jet Airways and Air Sahara began chipping away at the legacy airlines, trying to establish themselves. India's deregulation also attracted foreign players, right? Lufthansa invested in Modiluft, a joint venture airline that failed to succeed. However, Modiluft's air operator certificate was not over yet. The air operator certificate was given to the promoters of SpiceJet, the major low-cost carrier. The 2000s, the year 2000s marked the beginning of India's aviation boom. Full service carriers such as Air India and Jet Airways were challenged by a slew of low cost airlines. Low cost airlines drastically reduced fares, allowing millions more to fly and challenging the larger airlines. Notable examples of low cost airlines were uh, Indigo, SpiceJet, GoAir, and AirAsia India. These airlines now in 2021 occupy over 70% of the domestic market and they were continuing to grow. This explosion of airlines and low fares has propelled India into the third largest aviation market, requiring thousands of new aircrafts in the coming decades. The growth of the Indian aviation market has also attracted a number of foreign airlines. Carriers such as Emirates and Qatar have become a major long haul carriers, right? Flying to nearly dozens of cities each and holding a significant shares of the market. Foreign airlines like Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad serve as one-stop destinations to Indian travelers. Travel like to those who want to travel abroad, right? As mentioned on the screen, India remains the fastest growing aviation markets in the world. This has meant both aircraft manufacturers and airlines are looking to expand the Indian market. As the aviation industry starts its recovery from the current downturn, Some are predicting India is in a unique place to have a strong recovery. Both both Airbus and Boeing are pushing to sell the aircrafts to the Indian market, which is set to buy nearly 2,000 planes in the next 2 decades. Right? Yes. Airbus, Airbus has found success with its A320s, which is the common plane in India, while Boeing has dominated the smaller yet growing wide body market. Airlines are also making a play to expand their operations. Vistara recently became India's first private airline with the wide body aircraft, that is Boeing 787 9. No one in India has bought a Boeing 787 9. You, before that, it was Air India who bought Boeing 787 8. No one went to the second version of the 787s. It was Vistara who bought a new version of the Boeing 787 9, right? Then, and they are hoping to capture the long haul market. Air India is in the process of privatization, with the government selling its entire stake in the airline. The fall of Jet Airways last year in the 2019 created a place for a new long haul airline, one which is currently being filled by foreign airlines. Now, in coming months, we will see the rise of Jet Airways once again. And also, guys, if you want to know the Jet Airways relaunch date, then I request you to watch one of our IGTV videos where my tag member has talked on this topic. The link is in. The link will be updated ASAP in the description box, like somewhere like after the live session is over. Then, if not, you can just hop on to Instagram. Okay, just type down Aviation GuruJi and you'll find out my page over there, and just go to the IGTV section and search for the Jet Airways 2.0 post. Okay. Then in the coming years, we will see the Indian market to continue to grow as more travelers start flying and Indian airlines continue to expand. I am keenly watching as India reaches another chapter in its long aviation history. Now, let me summarize this thing in short, okay? Aviation industry in India is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. With the liberalization of the Indian aviation sector, Indian industry in India, aviation industry in India has undergone a rapid transformation from being primarily a government owned airline industry. The Indian aviation industry is now dominated by privately owned full service airlines and low cost carriers. Private airlines account over for around like has over 70% share of the domestic aviation market. Earlier, air travel was a privilege only for a few could afford, but today air travel has become much cheaper and can be afforded by a large number of people, right? That is why we have got a scheme called as Udan. I have already talked this in my previous module, right? Ode Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, where every every Indian citizen can fly at a lesser cost. The the origin of Indian civil aviation industry can be traced back to 1912 when the first flight, first air flight between Karachi uh, and Mumbai was started by the by the Indian State Air Services in collaboration with the UK-based Imperial Airways. I'm talking about Tata Air Services. Okay, yeah, it was an extension of London Karachi flight of the Imperial Airways. Okay, like it was from the route like London to Karachi, and from Karachi it came to Mumbai. Okay, it was on that kind of route. In 1932, J.R.D. Tata founded Tata Airlines, the first Indian airline at that time of independence. 8 transport companies were carrying both air cargo and passengers, and we didn't have like a great numbers actually. Like most of them were trying their best. Okay, मैं आ जाता हूँ, मैं भी आ जाता हूँ, मैं भी आ जाता हूँ, मैं भी आ जाता हूँ, लेकिन none of them could survive at that time, right? So we know like it was one was Tata Airlines, right? And then we had mm, Tata Airlines was one of those 9 airlines. Okay, and in early 1948, Government of India established a joint sector company called as Air India International Limited in collaboration with Air India. Earlier it was Tata Airlines. Okay, with a capital of 2 crores and a fleet of 3 Lockheed Constellation aircraft. The inaugural flight of Air India International took off on 1948, somewhere in 1948, and on the Mumbai London air route. All right, uh, the government nationalized these 9 airlines. Okay, so what are those 9 airlines? Let me tell you. Okay, there were one was Tata Airlines, as you guys know. Then we have Indian National Airways. Then you had Air Services of India, Deccan Airways, Ambika Airways, Bharat Airways, Orient Airways, and Mystery Airways. Okay, after the partition, Orient Airways was shifted to Pakistan. All right, then. So the government nationalized these 9 airline companies via the Air Corporation Act 1953. Accordingly, it established the Indian Airlines Corporations, that is AIC, to cater to domestic air travel passengers and Air India International for international air travel passengers. The asset, the assets of the existing airline companies were transferred to these two corporations. All right, this act ensured that um, Indian Airlines Corporation and Air India, that is AIC and Air India, had a monopoly over the Indian skies. The third government owned airline, Vayudut, which provided feeder services between smaller cities, was merged with Indian Airline Corporations in 1994. These government-owned airlines dominated Indian aviation industry till the mid 1990s. In April 1990s, the government adopted open sky policy and allowed 8 taxi operators to operate flights from any airport, both on a charter and a non-charter basis, and to decide their own flight schedule. cargo and passenger fare. In 1994, the Indian government, as part of its open sky policy, ended the monopoly of Indian Airlines and Air India in the air transport services by repealing the Air Corporation Act of 1953 and replacing it um, and uh, with the Air Corporations Act 1994, uh, private operators were allowed to provide air transport services. Foreign direct investment, that is the FDI, of up to 49% equity stake and NRI, okay, the non-resident Indians, investment of up to 100% equity stake were permitted through the automatic FDI route in the domestic air transport services sector. However, no foreign airline could directly or indirectly hold equity in the domestic airline company. Okay, it was at that time. Then, by 1995, several private airlines had ventured into the aviation business and accounted for more than 10% of the domestic air traffic. These included Jet Airways, Sahara, then you have Niktak, that is NEPC Airlines, East West Airlines, Modiloft Airlines, right? Jackson's Airlines, Continental Aviation, and Damania Airways, right? These airlines, but only Jet Airways and Sahara managed to survive the competition. While, meanwhile, Indian Airlines, which had dominated the Indian aviation travel, began to lose market shares to Jet Airways and Sahara. Today, Indian aviation industry is dominated by private airlines, and these include low-cost airlines such as Air Deccan, which is no, I don't think so. Like Air Deccan, we still have Air Deccan, I guess, but not a lot. Okay, we sometimes see their aircrafts, mm, but they don't serve the entire market. Okay, they're serving a very small places. I just find only the aircrafts sometimes in the airports. That's it. In one or two airports. Okay. Then you have Go Air, SpiceJet, and etc., who have made air travel affordable. Okay. Uh, Airline industry in India is plagued with several problems. Right. Uh, uh, we have like they include high aviation turbine fuel, right, prices, rising labor costs and shortage of skilled labors, rapid fleet expansion, and intense price competition among the players. But one of the major challenges facing Indian aviation market is infrastructure constraint. Airport infrastructure needs to be upgraded rapidly if Indian aviation industry has to continue its success story. Some steps have been taken in this direction. Two of India's largest airports, that is Mumbai and Delhi, were privatized recently. Two greenfield airports, uh, that is Bangalore and Hyderabad in southern India, right? So basically, we have good number of airports in present day, right? We have got hell lot of airports in all major cities. We have got international airports, we have got domestic airports, we have got regional connecting airports as well, right? So all that is it. So the investments are pouring into almost all the aspects of this industry. Okay, like it includes aircraft maintenance, pilot training, and air cargo services. Ooh, so yeah, the future of Indian aviation sector is completely bright. So if anyone is trying to look for a job in Indian aviation market, you are welcome. Don't see like what type of salary you get. Okay, I know like the cost in India it's completely less, so you get paid less compared to other countries. That is what I believe. Then I know like yeah. So coming to the end of this topic, I knew like it was too much. So it was just the start of this chapter. So you have so basically I have seen my uh, mobile phone. We have already crossed 30 minutes. Okay, in just explaining this topic. Then we now look into deregulations. Now this is one of the main topics of this particular unit. Okay, this is really challenging topic for me. To explain this, I have to first explain how the things had begun. Okay, so it started back in 1990s, right? I have already discussed this in during the development of commercial airlines topic, but also touched a part of it, a part of the deregulations in a few minutes ago, right? Uh, oh wait, yeah, I have. Uh, uh, I'll tell my team. Okay, after the live session gets over, I'm going to upload a PDF file. Okay, and the link to it will be in the description box. Okay, you will find the entire detailed story of deregulations. Okay, how it started, when, and why are also answered in that question in that PDF. Okay, basically everything related to deregulations of airline industry is of Indian Airlines. Okay, is answered in that PDF. Okay, so I don't want to spend more time on that. Uh, so let me like take you to the next topic, that is uh, looking its impact. Okay, so here I don't want to I just want to tell you that you guys can read what's there on the screen. Okay, the information given here is pretty straightforward one. Okay, you just pause the video and read the paragraphs given in the front of the screen, or else you can just take a screenshot, do whatever you want. Okay, then later. Oh wait, I'll just give you like 2 minutes for each um paragraph. Okay, you just take down your just take your 2 minutes in reading those paragraphs right now. So if you have any doubts, you can put them in the chat box right now. And yeah, like there are around like 6 to 7 people. Yep, it's sufficient for me right now. Okay, so if you guys are if you guys are genuinely seeing the screen, then please read what's on the screen right now. So yeah, we can so I can just clarify any of your doubts if you have it. Okay, right now I'm giving you 2 minutes uh, for each slide in this. Now coming to the next topic, that is organizational structure of airline company. Every airline company follows this hierarchy. All right, first comes stockholders. Okay, stockholders are also called as shareholders, right? These are the people who basically who uh, have the shares of the company. Example, investors. All right, as you all are studying BBA, that is Bachelor of Business Administration, most of you know what are the functions, duties, and responsibilities, right? And etc. So those are not from commerce background. For them, you guys can check out the Google, okay? And this is just a crash course. I'm not going to explain anything in depth. Okay, I don't want to bore you guys teaching each and every concept, going in depth, in depth, in depth. Okay, then you always have Google right in your hand, so you use Google. Then uh, uh, yes, then comes board of directors. These are the people who make decisions for the company. All right. Then we have the president, and below that we have the executive vice president. So these four are the actual top leaders of any airline company. Now, executive vice president takes care of two things, right? He is responsible for two different administrations. One is the staff administration, and the other one is the line administration. These two are the work administration of the airline business. The staff is responsible for planning, and the line is responsible for actual execution of the work. After these two, the things what you can see on the screen is looking quite simple to understand. The hierarchy looks peace, I guess. Under staff, you have Senior Vice President Finance and Property, Senior Vice President of Information Services, Senior Vice President of Personnel, Vice President of Corporate Communications. Then you have Senior Vice President. Then you have Director of Medical. Then you have Senior Vice President of Legal Advisories or Legal Affairs. Right? And if you see it properly, they are so like under like senior vice president of information services के अंदर दो और departments है. One is vice president of communications and the other one is vice president of systems analysis and programming. अब उसके नीचे और देखोगे तो और भी आते जाएंगे. Then you have vice president of corporate communications. उसके अंदर आपके दो है. One is director of government affairs and one is director of communication. Director of communications के अंदर है आपका regional manager communications. Okay. Then director of medicals के अंदर है director of regional medicals. Okay. वैसे ही आता जाएगा. Okay. And under line administration, you have senior vice president of flight operations, you have senior vice president of engineering and maintenance, and you have senior vice president of marketing. And these structures is only for the top and the middle level management. The lower level management consists of the subordinates working below these guys. Okay, so I didn't even think of mentioning them over here. Oh yeah, you have even HR. Okay, HR, okay, the HR team as well. So they are involved in the staff administration. Then now we look into the types of airline personnel. Airline personnel is classified into two things. One is flight deck and other one is cabin positions. I am stressing this once again that we are involved only in with the commercial aviation, and we never talk about military aviation in this course. So this so the various types of airline personnel include flight deck positions. In commercial aviation, the air crew are called as flight crew. Alright. Some flight crew positions names are derived from nautical terms. Okay. And indicate a rank or command structure similar to that on ocean going vessels, allowing for quick executive decision making during normal operations or emergency situations. Flight positions includes number one, the captain, the pilot designated as the pilot in command and the highest ranking member of the flight. The captain has overall decisions to make in his flight. Then we have first officer. First officer, also called as co-pilot, another pilot who is not the pilot in command and is normally seated to the right of the captain. Okay, on helicopters, uh, like a first officer is normally seated to the left of the captain. Okay, who occupies the right hand seat. Like basically, the captain occupies the right side on the helicopter, and the first officer gets to sit on the uh, left side. Then you have second officer, a person lower in rank to the first officer and who typically performs selected duties and also acts as a relief pilot. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry, I was confused a bit. So, a person, so a second officer, a person lower in rank to the first officer, who who typically performs selected duties and also acts as a relief pilot. All right. The rank of second officer was traditionally a flight engineer, who was often the person who handled the engine controls in the 21st century. Uh, Second officers on some airlines are pilots who act as cruise relief on long haul flights. We are going to talk about this in some time. Then comes uh, third officer, a person lower in rank to the second officer, who typically perform selected duties and also uh, act as a relief pilot. Okay, but these days we don't have a third officer. We rarely find a third officer job role in the current aviation business. मतलब एकदम ना के बराबर है. Okay, then we have relief crew, right? Members in the present day are fully licensed and trained captains and first officers who accompany long haul airline flights and who relieve the primary pilots during designated portions of the flight to provide them with rest or sleep breaks. The number of relief crew members assigned to a flight depends on the length of the flight and the official air regulations the airline operator operates under. All right. This means that if you have seen in movies or if you have traveled somewhere abroad like a 14 or 15-hour journey, non-stop flights I'm talking about, okay,
you will find that your aircraft has been taken control by more than two pilots on that same route on your aircraft, right? That is because if the primary crew feels tired while flying, then uh, the primary crew can give their controls to other pilots who are always acting as the backup. All right. Then we look into flight engineer. This position was originally called as an air mechanic on older aircrafts, typically between the late 1920s and the 1970s. The uh, flight engineer was the crew member responsible for engine systems and fuel management. If you have seen DC-9s or 10s or MD-11s, right, or the older version of 747s or 707s, you will see that there is a third member in the cockpit who is basically responsible for these kinds of work. In this era, as aircraft became increasingly sophisticated and automated, the function has been mostly assumed by the primary pilots. Primary pilots, meaning the captain and the first officer, which results in a continued downsizing in the number of aircrew positions on commercial flights. The um, the flight engineer's position is commonly staffed as the second officer. All right, flight engineers can still be found in the present day, but not in that great numbers. They are found on airline or air freight operations who are still flying older aircrafts. The position is typically crewed by the dual licensed, that is, pilot flight engineer in the present day. All right. Then we have airborne sensor operator. An airborne sensor operator, you can call this as ASO, a position like aerial remote sensing data acquisition specialist, or aerial payload operator, or police tactical flight officer, or tactical coordinator, and etc. I know, like ये सारे terms and दिमाग में रख रख के ये सारे जो भी पोजीशंस है ना, हाँ, बहुत ही कंफ्यूजिंग है, मैं भी जानता हूँ, हाँ. They are the functional profession of gathering information from an airborne platform, manned or unmanned, and or oversee mission management systems for academic, commercial, public safety, or military remote sensing purposes. Okay, they are the management systems. Okay, that could be manned or unmanned. All right, the airborne sensor operator is considered as a principal flight crew or air crew member. Then we have navigator. They are also called as air navigators or flight navigators, a position on older aircraft, typically between the late 1910s and the 1970s. Okay, where separate crew members were often responsible for the flight navigation, including its dead reckoning and celestial navigation, especially when flown over oceans and other featureless areas where radio navigation aids were not originally available. As sophisticated electronic air navigation aids and universal space based GPS navigation systems came online, the dedicated navigator's position was discontinued and its function was assumed by dual licensed pilot navigators, and still later by the aircraft's primary pilots, that is, the captain and first officer, resulting in a continued downsizing in the number of aircrew positions on the commercial flights. Modern electronics navigation systems made by the navigator redundant by the early 1980s. Then we have something called as radio operator. So this is the last. position under flight deck, right? A position on much older aircraft, typically between the mid 1910s and and somewhere up to 1940s. Okay, where a separate crew member were often responsible for handling telegraphic and voice radio communication between the aircraft and the ground stations. As radio sets became increasingly sophisticated and easier to operate, the function was taken over directly by the first officer or the second officer, and still later by the pilot in command and co-pilot, making the radio operator's position redundant. So, guys, I just want to tell you something that when I was explaining this, right? So we can see that not only one or two, but four different positions, that is radio operator, navigator, airborne sensor operator, and flight engineer, are now taken care by only two pilots on board, right? The mighty beast captain, and to grab his hand, also standing next to him or her, is the first officer. So you can think what and all things that run into their brains and what SOPs they have to follow when they enter the beautiful flight deck, right? So like they have to work a lot, so they can do their work properly, right? Yeah. So now we talk about the second classification, that is the cabin positions. Crew members who are responsible for the safety of passengers. They are the true warriors and true inspirations to all the girls and women who are planning to join aviation. I just talked about the women crew members. Okay, indeed, they are true warriors. Like even the male cabin attendants, even they are warriors, no doubt. A soldier, okay, a soldier protects the people on the country and country on ground, all right, and these people, the crew members working on this position, they protect people in the skies. Now, aircraft cabin crew members, uh, they can consist of four different positions. One is purser, a purser or in-flight service manager or cabin services director. He or she is the team leader of that flight. She is responsible to see the overall work in the cabin. Then uh, you have flight attendant or cabin crew. He or she is the cabin crew responsible for the safety of the passengers. Historically, during the early era of commercial aviation, the positions, okay, you guys wouldn't know this, that the positions were staffed by the young cabin boys who assisted passengers. Cabin boys were replaced by female nurses, originally called stewardesses. The medical background requirement for the flight attendant position was later dropped, and now those who want to join as a cabin crew, you need to have a normal BMI and few good soft skills. Enough. You need to have a confidence in yourself as well. Then comes flight medic. Okay, flight medic is a person who is a specialized paramedic, meaning a person trained to give medical emergency care to people uh, who are seriously ill and with the aiming of stabilizing them before they are taken to the hospital. All right, like all these stuff are done mid-air, right? These days they are now employed on air ambulance aircrafts or flights. Then lastly we have something called as load master. I know this term is something new for you people, right? So they can they are the one on the cargo aircraft. Okay, so basically they are responsible for loading freight and personnel, and for calculating the aircraft's weight and balance prior to flight. which must be within the aircraft's manufacturer's prescribed limits for a safe flight. On a non cargo aircraft, weight and balance tasks are performed by the flight crew. Now, we take a look into the differences of flight crew and cabin crew. Flight crew is also called as a crew. Alright, flight crew is also called as a crew. I apologize for that weird sound given by me. And cabin crew is responsible for the safety of the passengers. If you know some more differences, let me know in the chat box before I proceed into the next concept. So let me see my mobile phone. Okay. People interested in writing Shweta and Aviation GuruJi OP. Alright, so these guys are like spamming my chat box. It's alright. Guys, continue. At least you're doing some work. You're not like wasting your time, right? At least you're doing some work. That's good. Okay, guys, give me a minute. I'll drink some water before I continue with the next topic. Yes. Well, I hope you are understanding the concepts, okay? Till now, whatever I have taught you guys. Next comes, now let's look into how training can be improved by implementing the right kind of changes. Alright. So, I am going to keep you as a teacher or an instructor for this session. Okay, and I'm going to tell about the meaning and how what has to be done. Alright. This could be something really damn sensitive. Okay. So I want you guys to see this stuff. Okay. So what's that written on the screen? That is, training may go unchanged for years simply because the outcome is acceptable and the necessary resources to review the training might never be allocated. Alright. So many of you know, right, what do you mean by training? Okay. Preparing a personnel for that particular job role. Alright, for particular task. Or he is going to do it in the future. Alright. That's it. So we are going to try looking this thing how this can be improved. Alright. So the number one thing what I come across is change something. Now you would be asking what to change. I'll tell you, change anything. Change something. It could be anything. Alright. In your organization, you might be content with the outcome of your training. Students will receive the same education you had many years ago. And the way you do things in your organization has been proven effective over years with the stable success rate of 52%. That's great. But what if it would, sorry, but what if it could be increased to 60%, 70%, or higher? Solid training results are not the same as ideal or maximum training results. If nobody remembers the reasons for having always done it this way, perhaps it's about time to change something. That's what. Change something. It's about time to change something. You have to change something. Okay. Number two, review your training. Training should be reviewed regularly, ideally after each course. Feedback from students, instructors, and teachers should be gathered, analyzed, and discussed before deciding on which changes should be implemented. In a busy organization, this step is easily neglected. Okay, especially if everybody is happy with the outcome. However, the aftermath of the training session is the best time to reflect on how things were done and how they might be improved. In the training organization, okay, uh, there are many training organization. Okay, they uh, where all they do is training. Okay, it's easier to establish regular reviews, but even we have to remind ourselves every now and then. I would guess that even you do too, right? And even I always ask guys. Uh, I always release a feedback form. Okay, like there's a feedback form in the description box. So you guys can give your reviews. You can give your suggestions about how my content is going. If you want, if you cannot give it on the link given in the, if you cannot type it on the link. Okay, so you cannot, if you cannot type on the given link in the description, you can always come. You can talk to me on Instagram. Okay, if you can give your suggestions, you can give your ideas, you can give your reviews. It's okay. I welcome all the stuff. Okay, then um, next thing, third point, what I'm going to touch is about review instructors and teachers. Even if this might seem slightly controversial, it's important to look at the staff you have for training. You can select the best pilot, best air traffic controller, or the best engineer across the world, and he or she might be the worst teacher or the instructor ever. Teaching and instructing is also a professional skill. Just remember that, guys. In our industry, that is the aviation industry, there is a tendency to merely select somebody for training duties without considering their motivation and or teaching skills. But hey, that's how we have always done it, right? And this leads me directly to the fact that chodo yaar. Then number 4, teaching is also a profession. It takes years to become a teacher, and that's true. Even I sometimes find hard to teach people, but I try myself. I try getting motivated. I try motivating myself to teach you people. Only then I'm able to teach you people. All right. It is a profession. You need to study, and obviously, like as a teacher, you have to study. A teacher has to study in order to teach you people. Okay, and yet in many professions, including aviation, it's common to take anybody with the competencies of the trade and put them in the classroom to teach everybody else. It might not be an optimum way of doing things. You cannot put a teacher behind a radar screen or the controls of an aircraft and expect him or her to separate traffic or fly an aircraft. And yet we put controllers and pilots in classrooms and expect them to teach. Why? You must provide your training staff with professional training education. It will significantly improve the outcome of the training. And lastly, number 5, change your view of the students. Okay, if you made it through the training, that's fine. You had what it took. If not, too bad. We will find somebody else. A low success rate was generally accepted, as well as the assumption that it was difficult, if not possible, to screen properly for the right skill for the trade, and no attention was paid to the individual students. Today, recruitment and selection processes have improved significantly, but on top of that, it's also important to recognize students for future colleagues and as individuals who might need to be treated differently through difficult training of course, what one can do may be limited by financial or time constraints. However, aviation training is expensive, obviously, and providing students with individualized attention may well be worth the effort. The training that you provide should take this into consideration. In general, changes should be welcomed and embraced. Within aviation, many changes are forced upon us by new legislation or technology. Consequently, uh, they change operations and training to adapt. But we can also implement changes as the results of a desire to improve things, to make things better, by regularly reviewing how we train and the outcomes we achieve. We can implement the necessary changes and training and can continuously contribute to a better and safer aviation industry. Aviation has always been a very dynamic environment. Uh, this is the one characteristics that will never change, and I bet. Guys, if I tried raising my voice somewhere in between this particular topic, okay, while explaining this topic, I apologize. थोड़ा flow में मैं निकल जाता हूँ कभी कभार. Then we look now we shall look into organizational culture. All right. We know that every organization maintain its own specific culture, but the culture that is maintained in an international airline, oh my god, they literally spend huge amount of money on uh, like on those, okay, to be on those standards. That is what is uh, given under training organizational structure, the first paragraph. All right. Then national culture followed in the airline uh, talks about the national heritage of the organization. Okay, the culture what you follow in the airline. Okay, it talks the culture what is shown in the airline side, the air side, where passengers are involved. Okay, like you are traveling on the air, you see the crew members, you see the pilots, the culture what they follow, the same culture is being followed by the organization itself, within the organization itself. All right, it includes behavior, attitudes and values. National culture within the organization has to be changed timely based on the era that we are living. If the organization follows with the era, then this will definitely create a strong impact on the industry. Professional culture, um, if you see pilots, for example, okay, they love their job, right? And they are strongly motivated for doing the job. This creates a positive impact in the organization safety and efficiency of the operations. This strong professional culture can sometimes also create a negative impact, that is personal invulnerability. This is what it talks in the third paragraph about professional culture. I want you guys to go through that. Okay, just pause the video and go through it. For right now, I'm going to the next slide. Okay, I'm taking you to the next slide. Guys, now I want you to read this paragraph. So if you have any doubts, let me know in the chat box so I could answer right now itself. Mm, Let me now take you to the next slide. Guys, this slide and the previous slide is for the same subtopic. Okay, we're talking about the organizational organizational culture. All right, guys, any doubts? Okay, so let me check my mobile phone once again. Um, so there is no doubts. Okay, like it's okay. People are showing interest in writing Shweta and Aviation GuruJi OP. And what is this? ये मैं हूँ, ये हमारा लाइव क्लास है और यहाँ और हमारी पारी हो रही. That's great. That's good. Nice one. Okay, then let's see what we have in the next slide. Okay, then we have, oh, we have finished the chapter. That's great. So guys, that is it for today's session. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, share this playlist with the other aspirants or with your friends. And have if you want to talk to me, then you can follow me on Instagram. Link is in the description, and also join my Discord server where we both will have a detailed discussion on the topics covered here so far. So guys, always remember, good aviation aspirants always learning, exploring. See you on the next live session. All the best, your Aviation Guruji.